All right. So again, we're trying to stay neutral, right? So FDR, remember we had that first peacetime draft. So FDR is actually going to try to extend that draft. That's going to pass the House by only one vote. Now, why is that important? Well, if it only passes by one vote, remember that means that there's a lot of people who are like, I don't know if this is the best idea. Because again, the overwhelming opinion at the time is that the United States should stay out of this. This is not our concern. Is it messing with our allies and our friends overseas? Yes, but we don't want a war, right? So FDR and Winston Churchill, again, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, they're going to issue the Atlantic Charter, which is basically saying that we are going to be an ally with the British and the French. Now, again, we have not declared war. We're not joining in. We're not sending troops. We do have people who are deployed. But again, this is in preparation for what we thought would be a war in the Pacific against the Japanese. Remember, those troops had not committed to be fighting in Europe yet. All right. Now, the thing is the Germans are going to increase their U-boat activity. FDR is going to start ordering the Navy to shoot these U-boats on sight. Not necessarily self-defense. We can start taking aggressive action. Okay. Now, in the Pacific, then what's going to happen is that Japan, remember under Hideki Tojo, who is not the leader of Japan, but he did have overwhelming power because he controlled the military, and essentially the emperor is afraid of the Japanese military. So what ends up happening in the Pacific is that Japan is going to seize French Indochina. Now today that's called Vietnam. Keep this in the back of your mind, ladies and gentlemen, because we will be talking later on about French Indochina again when we talk about the Vietnam War. So again, even after World War II, we are going to feel these repercussions. All right. So Japan, they take control of French Indochina. The United States then is going to cut off trade with Japan, which is kind of the crazy thing because, like, even though we are rivals in the Pacific, we're still doing business with them. Okay. So, Japan, for example, one of the things that they needed from us is they need our oil, right? So, the United States, in response to the French taking over, or in response to Japan taking over French Indochina, we are going to cut off their oil supply. Now, when we cut off their oil supply, they view that as essentially an act of war. So if we cut off their oil, they need oil. Where are they going to get it from? The Dutch East Indies, which is present day like Indonesia. Okay, so Japan then is going to attack Dutch East Indies in response. The United States is angry about that. And so by the time late 1941 rolls around, the United States, we're trying to figure out exactly what the Japanese are doing. And the Japanese had been, talking to each other, obviously, through code, which everybody was doing just so that you don't get your messages intercepted. But by late 1941, we intercepted the Japanese, or we broke the Japanese codes, and we understood that Japan was actually they were planning on attacking the United States. Okay, so at that point, and again, we don't tell them, "Hey, we know you're trying to attack us." Um, we basically said, "All right, let's talk this out." So we sit down. We have a series of peace talks that lasted all through November. On December 6th, however, the Japanese envoy to the United States, he is basically going to reject all further U.S. proposals. Now, what do you think is going to happen on December 7th, then, 1941? I wonder. Well, it's the attack on Pearl Harbor. All right. So December 7th, 1941, the Japanese, they're going to attack the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. 2,400 Americans are killed. That is the largest loss of American life to a foreign power up until basically September 11th. All right, 300 aircraft are going to be destroyed. 21 ships are going to be destroyed. Thankfully, and still a lot of controversy about this. And you can kind of watch this video too. That'll be in the chapter 23 video slideshow. But there's a lot of controversy over this still. I mean, we knew that the Japanese were planning an attack. There was a ton of the U.S. Pacific Fleet that was not in harbor at the time, which is awfully convenient because we kind of knew that this attack was coming. Regardless, though, when the Japanese attack American soil in Pearl Harbor, this means that there's no turning back. We must retaliate. That public opinion in the United States then, which was pretty positively against combat, We didn't want to get sucked into these affairs. Now that we're attacked on American soil, this is where public opinion is going to swing over to the other side in favor of war. So Congress then is going to approve FDR's request for a declaration of war. So December 8th, or actually I think it's December 9th, 1941, we are going to declare war on Japan. Germany and Italy then, who remember were Japan's allies, they declare war on us. So the United States then is going to go to war. Now the big problem is, remember, we are facing potentially now, since Japan and Germany and Italy have all declared war on us, we are fighting a two-front war. That's not good. And despite the fact that we had that peacetime draft, the United States is just not ready to fight a two-front war. And especially, we're fighting a two-front war not against like Mexico and Canada. We're fighting a two-front war across two separate oceans entirely. And that's where we're going to stop then. Chapter 25 is how the World War II actually progresses in both the Pacific and European theaters. That's it. If you have any questions, we can chat. The end.